Well, don't say we didn't warn you. Critical race theory training paid for by federal taxpayer dollars is back, and I have to tell you, after the coverage and the response that I've seen over the last couple days, I think it's coming back with a vengeance, and I don't think it's going to be good. This is from USA Today. Donald Trump executive order banning diversity training suspended by Labor Department. And what they mean by diversity training, listen, the media has never properly explained what this executive order does. What the executive order does, and I'm going to just really simplify it because I've covered it about 87,000 times on this channel if you want more in-depth analysis. What the executive order does is it bans training paid for by federal dollars that teaches people that all white people are racist and all men are misogynist. I am not exaggerating that. That is literally what the executive order bans. If you are having diversity training in your company in which you did not teach that all white people are racist and you did not teach that all men are misogynist, then you would have had no problem. The order wouldn't have impacted you at all. But of course, the media is a bunch of lying effing liars who completely have distorted this entire affair. So let's just keep that in mind as we read this article. The Labor Department has suspended enforcement of Donald Trump's executive order restricting diversity training by federal government agencies and contractors that the president labeled as divisive and un-American after a federal court judge blocked it. Late last month, U.S. District Court Judge Beth Lebson Freeman granted a preliminary nationwide injunction in a lawsuit filed by LGBT rights groups in the Northern District of California, saying the groups were likely to prevail on their First Amendment claims. Plaintiffs have demonstrated a likelihood of success in improving violations of their constitutional rights, Freeman wrote in a 34-page order. More so, as the government itself acknowledges, the work plaintiffs' platform is extremely important to historically underserved communities because teaching all white people that they are all racist is extremely important. It is how the Democrats managed to get white men to not vote for Donald Trump in the last election by teaching them all that they were racist and misogynist. This is about politics and nothing more. This is not about fairness. This is not about justice. This is not about equity. This is not about creating more opportunity for more people. This is only about maintaining power. That's it. That's all that matters in this scenario to the Democrats. These actions are a welcome step towards undoing the executive order that fails to acknowledge the realities of systemic racism in America, fully undercuts companies' efforts to promote a diverse, inclusive, and equitable workforce, and that was implemented contradicting all normal federal rule-making processes. Megan Peterson, Senior Director for Policy, Public Sector, and Counsel at the Industry Trade Group, ITI, said in a statement. Now, what Megan doesn't say is that this training does not actually help organizations to be more productive. It does not actually help organizations to be more diverse. It does not actually help organizations to be more inclusive and equitable. In fact, all of the research that we know about this type of training is it does literally the opposite. It costs organizations money. It inhibits team collaboration. It inhibits team cohesion. It basically eliminates trust from the organization. There is no evidence, zero evidence that this organization, that this type of training helps organizations to be more productive, but none of that matters. None of that matters because systemic racism. Critics say Trump's executive order was a broadside against diversity and inclusion programs seeking to reverse patterns of discrimination and inclusion going back decades. The incoming Joe Biden administration is widely expected to scrap it. Yes, of course they will. Of course they will. And we knew that. We knew that going into it. But listen, folks, I actually think that, we had to fight the battle against critical race theory on a different front anyway. Here is the reality. The executive order helped a lot of people. It helped millions of people for a couple of months to get a reprieve from this training. All of a sudden, their organizations, if they wanted federal government contracts, were not allowed to do this type of training. That was an amazing thing. It helped a lot of people. But the reality was this: it was never going to be permanent. The battle against critical race theory is a battle that has to be fought in people's hearts and people's minds. And in order to do that, we need to get a lot better at explaining what critical race theory is and why it is dangerous and why organizations purely from a business perspective, should not want to do this training. Never mind the human perspective. Never mind the human cost of teaching someone that they are inherently racist because of the skin that they were born with, that they can never change, and they're just inherently racist their entire life, and the only way to combat their inherent racism is to go through this training all the time, constantly be doing the work, paying thousands of dollars to go through this training, to be told that you are racist in this training over and over and over again. Never mind the business cost of doing that. We need to think about the human cost, and we need to be making it abundantly clear what this training actually teaches and why it is dangerous and why no organization should be investing money in training based on critical race theory. These arguments have to be fought. We need to get better at explaining this. We need to get better at teaching people what this is. Now, I have a metric F ton of respect for James Lindsay and Helen Pluckrose and Peter Boghossian. I have a metric F ton of respect for them. They have done more to get people to understand this ideology than anyone else on the planet. But here is the problem. They are writing about it in a really academic way. They're writing about it in a way that their papers are like reading papers that I would read if I was reading a scholarly journal, and there's nothing wrong with that. This needs to be fought. This started in academia. This philosophy started in academia, and it needs to be fought in academia, and that's exactly what they're doing. But there's also a bridge that needs to be crossed between academia and the general public. That's what needs to happen now. And that's something that I'm going to be working on. That is part of what I want to do, because I have always been really, really good at translating academic into something that the average person can understand. And in order to understand why that's important, I mean, I used to joke when I was writing my doctoral dissertation, well, I can't take 2 sentences to say something when 5 pages will do, because that's what it's like to be in academia. They teach you that everything has to be overwritten, and the word choice you have to use is just it's all overwrought, and it is not understandable to the average person who is busy, who is stressed out, who doesn't have enough time in their day as it is to sit down and try to understand what this philosophy is. It needs to be really, really, really simplified. I don't have all the answers for how that's going to work yet, but it is something I'm actively going to be working on this channel. I'm going to be doing more live streams, breaking down what is going on in this training. We're going to be watching videos and actually responding to it in real time of what is happening in this training so that the average people can understand it. I also have a couple projects underway that I'm going to be working on and launching. I was hoping to launch them this week, but other things happened. I have a couple projects underway that I think are going to really help this. And I know I'm not the only one working on this. I know that, James Lindsay, I think, really tries to simplify this stuff a lot of times. And I think sometimes he does a good job, and I think sometimes it could be a little bit better. There are other people working on it too, but we need all hands on deck, guys. This is a battle that we need to win, and we cannot win it simply by banning critical race theory, because then they're going to play themselves out to be the victim, and they're going to hang out and keep doing it anyway and keep peddling this absurd ideology. We need to be able to explain to people what it is, why it's bad, provide just really easy to comprehend evidence for it, and keep hammering it over and over and over and over and over again. And if you are going to be in this fight, you have to be prepared. They're going to call you a racist. They're going to I'm sure I'm a misogynist on some level. They're going to call you all the names in the book, and you have to stand your ground and keep saying no. It is not acceptable to teach people that they are inherently racist because they are white. It is not acceptable to teach that men are inherently misogynist because they are men. None of this should be acceptable to anyone, and it certainly should not be something that our federal taxpayer dollars go to support. But this is the battle that we're in now. We knew it was coming. We need to hunker down for the next 2 years. We cannot give 1 inch when it comes to this crazy, crazy nonsense. It's going to get worse before it gets better, but the more people that we have fighting and pushing back on this ideology, the better chance that we have to win. For me, this is a hill I will die on. I will keep going after this over and over and over again. I am going to be dedicating a lot more time and energy to going after this because I think that this is the critical battle. Donald Trump's not the critical battle. Donald Trump's going to go and do whatever it is he's going to do. And I think that he's actually going to be much more interesting out of office than in office, if I'm honest. But that's not the critical battle. That was never the critical battle. The reason that so many people like me supported Donald Trump, and I still do support him, by the way, but the reason that so many people like me got on the Trump train to begin with was because he was the only one. He was the only one pushing back against this absurd ideology. Well, he's not going to be in office anymore, but he started us down that path, and now we've got to keep going. It does not matter that he's not in office. It does not matter that Joe Biden's going to take over and do all sorts of critical race theory nonsense. It doesn't matter that Kamala Harris is going to take over and probably continue to fund Black Lives Matter and people that are rioting, but then, turning on Trump supporters and call them insurrectionists. Like, it doesn't matter. None of that matters. That is all noise. We have to keep fighting this battle. We have to. It's really important. All right, that's all I've got for right now, guys. If you want to fight this battle with me, I hope you'll consider subscribing to the channel, turning on notifications, all that good stuff. It really does help me out. And as I said, I'm going to be providing much more content around this area moving forward. So get ready for it, man. I'm not going anywhere, and I don't think many of you will too. That's all I've got for right now. I'll see you soon.